For 1,000 years, the heartbeat of Venice was a tower. St. Mark's Campanile didn't just mark the skyline, it dictated the rhythm of life for the Republic. It rang for work, it rang for war, and it rang for execution. Venetians called it El Paron de Casa, the master of the house. It was assumed to be eternal. But stone has a memory, and deep beneath the piazza, a slow, invisible decay was eating away at the master's feet. On July 14, 1902, the unthinkable happened. In under 10 seconds, a millennium of history collapsed into dust. This is the story of an engineering impossibility, a hidden structural failure, and the day Venice held its breath. To understand why it fell, we have to understand why it rose. In the late 9th century, Venice was not a luxury destination. It was a fortress built on fear. Magyar raiders were burning their way through northern Italy. The young republic needed eyes. Under Doge Pietro Tribuno, around the year 888, construction began. This wasn't vanity architecture. It was a military asset, a watchtower designed to spot pirate fleets in the Adriatic 30 kilometers out. But building a skyscraper in the Middle Ages is difficult. Building one on a lagoon is an act of defiance against physics. The ground here is fluid, mud and silt. To stabilize the massive weight, medieval engineers devised a solution that was as brilliant as it was risky. They drove thousands of alder wood piles deep into the lagoon floor. Biology saved the tower. Submerged in mud and cut off from oxygen, the wood couldn't rot. Instead of decaying, the anaerobic conditions caused the timber to harden, mineralizing into a substance nearly as durable as stone. On this artificial bedrock, the Campanile slowly climbed toward the clouds. Construction would continue in stages for nearly 3 centuries. By the early 11th century, the tower had reached its full height, nearly 100 meters of brick and stone, crowned with a wooden spire wrapped in copper. It dominated the lagoon like nothing else in Europe. But height comes with a cost. For centuries, the Campanile acted as a lightning magnet. That copper-wrapped spire was essentially a torch waiting to be lit. 1388, 1403, 1489. The history of the tower is a history of fire. The strike in 1489 was so violent it didn't just burn the wood, it shattered the masonry below, cracking the tower open like an eggshell. Venice had had enough. In the early 16th century, the city commissioned a redesign in stone, topping it with the white marble belfry and the golden Archangel Gabriel we recognize today. It was a masterpiece of Renaissance engineering, but the lightning kept coming. It wasn't until 1776 that the cycle of destruction was broken. Physicist Giuseppe Teobaldo installed a Franklin lightning rod, replacing superstition with science. The fires stopped. The tower seemed safe. But the real threat wasn't coming from the sky anymore. It was waiting underground. The countdown to 1902 began decades earlier, initiated by modern improvements. In 1885, the city dug new sewer lines beneath St. Mark's Square. Later, forensic analysis would suggest that this excavation disturbed the delicate hydrostatic balance of the lagoon. The water table shifted. For the first time in 1,000 years, the wooden piles, those ancient, oxygen-starved supports, may have been exposed to changes in pressure and moisture. Many engineers believe that from this point forward, the foundation began to breathe, and the tower began to twist. By the late 1890s, careful analysis of the brickwork would have revealed fishbone cracks, telltale signs of shear stress. But the inspections were superficial. Engineers reported that the tower was stable. They were wrong. The final blow was self-inflicted. In July 1902, workers attempting to repair the loggia, the decorative base of the tower, cut a horizontal channel into the load-bearing masonry. They sliced 40 centimeters wide and 30 centimeters deep. On a healthy building, this would be a flesh wound. On a tower already dying from foundation stress, it was an execution. Monday, July 7th, 9:30 a.m. As the chisel hit the stone, the tower shuddered. Not a vibration, a spasm. Engineers placed glass telltales across the cracks to monitor movement. By the next morning, every piece of glass had snapped. The Campanile was moving. By July 14th, the panic was palpable. The cracks were widening by the hour. Access to the square was restricted. The Sunday band concert was canceled. Cafe owners shuttered their windows. Street vendors abandoned their stalls mid-transaction. A photographer, hoping for the shot of a lifetime, set up his tripod at what he prayed was a safe distance. At 9:30 a.m. on the 14th, the authorities finally cleared the area. 17 minutes later, the physics took over. At 9:47 a.m., the internal ramp system failed. The inner and outer shafts, which had supported each other for centuries, decoupled. The tower didn't topple like a tree, it imploded. It telescoped vertically, the outer walls folding inward as the core dropped straight down. Witnesses described a sound like 100,000 looms snapping at once, the violent crack of a city's heart breaking. A massive column of white dust shot 40 meters into the air, blotting out the sun. Across the lagoon, the glass furnaces in Murano shut down, their workers convinced a bomb had detonated. When the dust cleared, the master of the house was gone. All that remained was a 15-meter cone of rubble. Inside that debris lay the shattered remains of 5 historic bells, including the Great Marangona, the bell that had summoned workers to the arsenal for centuries. But amidst the devastation, something close to a miracle. The tower had fallen with such vertical precision that it missed St. Mark's Basilica by just 42 centimeters. No humans were killed. According to local legend, the only casualty was the custodian's cat, a detail that may be apocryphal, but one that Venetians still repeat to this day. The shock turned instantly to resolve. That very evening, the city council voted. There would be no modern redesign. The mandate was simple. Dov'era, com'era. Where it was, how it was. But while the exterior would be a perfect replica, the interior was a fortress of modern engineering. Nearly 1,000 workers labored on the reconstruction. The new tower, completed on April 25, 1912, the Feast of St. Mark, utilized reinforced concrete and stronger foundation piles, tying the structure together in a way the medieval builders never could. From the debris, workers recovered fragments of the original Archangel Gabriel. These relics, along with the recast Marangona bell, were incorporated into the new tower, a physical thread connecting the old master to the new. Today, the Campanile of St. Mark stands as a strange paradox. It looks ancient, but it is younger than the Eiffel Tower. It is a monument not just to the history of Venice, but to its resilience. A city that refuses to let the lagoon, or time itself, have the final word. It stands where it has always stood, watching the horizon, waiting for the next storm.